Welcome to another episode of Trouble to Transformation. Today, I have Damian Robertson. Damian served in the Canadian Infantry from 1998 to 2002 in Petawawa, Ontario. He did a tour in Kosovo and was medically released due to PTSD and a back injury. However, while in Europe in the year 2000, Damian survived a catastrophic train wreck where he suffered from survivor's guilt, which involved reoccurring nightmares for 23 years. This led him on a quest for alternative healing, where he was guided to ayahuasca, where he has experienced total transformation, mind, body, and soul. Damian and his family are living a happy and successful life in Okotoks, where Damian is a very talented and sought after tattoo artist going on for 19 years. Damian has graced us with his vulnerability to tell his story to inspire others. Welcome, Damian. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. So in
Quite the intro.
Okotoks. Oh, yes. Well,
Okotoks.
yeah. Well, you know what? I believe that when I invite a guest or I have a guest on, it's an honor. It's an honor. So I do like to do a little bit of my research and introduce you properly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So Okotoks.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
a nice little town close enough to the mountains, but far enough away from the city.
Yeah. It's interesting because I just saw one of your stories on Instagram and I follow the governor of Givener.
Oh yeah.
And it was, and then all of a sudden I was like, hey, wait a second. So you guys must be friends.
Oh yeah. We've been friends for close to a decade now. So I've done a lot of his work, and
Mhm.
yeah, we've just been it's a good hangout session where you can tattoo your buddy, all day and less stress, and yeah.
Yeah. I kind of got that when it was like, I love you, buddy. I love you
Yeah.
more. Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of my viewers and my friends, they always ask me like, where do you meet these people? Because just for our viewers, like Damian and I have never really met. So,
Yeah,
and it's
first
this,
time.
yeah, and it's this online community that I feel is growing and growing and growing because we all have a very similar interest in mind, and that is the entheogens, the plant medicines.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I had the pleasure of interviewing who I do believe is another very good friend of yours, Toby Miller, the unmedicated Mohican.
Yes. He
Yeah.
got me. He pointed the way for me.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. So I knew
Oh,
him before his transformation,
oh, wow.
and and yeah, I was traveling the world with my wife at the time, and we
Mhm.
were trying to. Well, we were basically running away from the PTSD at the time.
Mhm.
It's just like we're just going to travel and try to make ourselves feel good, but didn't matter where we went. If we went to Costa Rica and we were enjoying these beautiful, areas and trying to work and just trying to distract ourselves, and it was always there,
Yeah.
and it was on one of these retreats, and I'm hanging around all these really awesome, beautiful artists who are, just full of love and expression. I couldn't
Mhm.
express myself around them because I felt
Mhm.
really weird with my military experiences and stuff. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, there's something wrong with me that, like, I've known it, but like I didn't realize how much it impacted my life, my artistic life, and being able to make friendships, stuff like that. And that really bothered me. And I see his testimonial coming out of the Amazon, and I was like, "Whoa, bro, you're not the same person that I knew from way before here."
Mhm.
So I reached out to him and I asked him, you know, was it the real deal? What was he doing? And how how it affected him so much that, like, I could just see the stress and everything drain from his face, and I'm like, I want a piece of that. Tell me
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, Damien, being that you did suffer from extreme PTSD, I would actually, were you diagnosed with PTSD? Like,
Yes, it was.
was it complex PTSD or?
I got diagnosed back in 2001, 2002, with PTSD, but they didn't really label it complex or
Mm-hmm.
TBI or anything like that. It was
Hmm.
just like, you have PTSD, you have a bad back, you have the survivor's guilt that, we basically can't help you out with. So you're on your own. And
Yeah. Okay, so being diagnosed with PTSD, I'm assuming you were probably prescribed some medications.
oh yes, definitely was on medications for a good. I went cold turkey off all my medications in 2014. That was for like my back, the opiates, SSRIs, just different like Ativans, just stuff
Hmm.
like that to keep. It was quite a bit, but I didn't realize how much it was just making me complacent, stay at home, and I wasn't doing anything. I was just getting worse. Back was getting worse. My brain was getting worse,
Hmm.
ruminating too much, and I just decided I was sick of it, and I got
Hmm.
off all the pharmaceuticals. I was using cannabis quite a bit to mitigate the withdrawals from the opiates and whatnot, which definitely helped a bit, but still wasn't getting me anywhere. But just feeling complacent and um, yeah, that continued on for a good decade, you know.
Wow. Yeah,
So
that's a long time. And I'm impressed, like cold turkey coming off of opioids and stuff like that. Like that's no easy task.
no, and it definitely affected everything and around me.
Hmm.
I didn't know because my doctors at the time, like a lot of people, they're like, they're non-addictive, we're just going to give you
Hmm.
by the hundreds. And, we all know that to be not the fact anymore. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I can't sue you for that. But I mean, like, you were just trying to do whatever um, with something that you felt you couldn't fix, but by throwing pills at it. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Do you mind sharing with me and the viewers like what type of symptoms that you were actually experiencing from the PTSD? I know you did mention reoccurring nightmares, but was there anything
Yeah,
else?
so my nightmares were pretty much of the train wreck and being overseas
Mhm.
every night, and they were pretty intense just because the severity of the wreck I was in.
Mhm.
But I would also have reoccurring intrusive thoughts of the scenes where it would make my whole body shake and like violently, almost like I call them PTSD like tremors, where my whole body would be like in a state of shock because I'm being given a vision, and those visions were just really terrible that I couldn't process. So, and I
Yeah.
get like, sometimes 20, 30 of them a day to the
Oh,
point where it's like I couldn't work with people anymore. And I started work privately just because I didn't want people to see me like, well, what's wrong with you? I'm like, well, I had a nightmare that just happened during the day and I don't know why. There's no reason for it. It just keeps happening over and over and over again. And I'm just really get sick of it. So,
wow. That must have been incredibly taxing on your nervous system.
taxing on my body, my soul, my family. I mean, like,
Yeah.
my wife met me 6 months after my accident and as I was leaving the military. So she's never
Mhm.
known me to be before that, where I was kind of like just chill, easygoing kind of dude, And
Yeah.
so it's a big change here in the house for the last 8 months, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, the intrusive thoughts, the imposter syndrome, everything,
Mhm.
the low self worth, just because I can't shake it out of my brain and what's behind my eyes. And yeah, it just a daily struggle, to being shortness and constantly angry just because I'm so frustrated all the time.
Yeah.
It weighs on people, and then you just get to the point where am I safe? What am I doing here? You
Mhm.
start asking and brooding on questions that shouldn't be in your psyche, but it's
Right.
there anyways. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
that's it.
So when you say a catastrophic train wreck, do you mind sharing with us kind of the some of the details of what that was like?
Yeah, so I was traveling around Europe, and just young guy, just enjoying the sights of Europe and whatnot, on my leave from Kosovo. So I was mid tour. I was on my 18-day LTA, which is like 18 days to go home or do whatever. So I'm a young buck. I'm like, I'm just going to go and travel Europe for those 18 days. And that's what I did with a friend. And on the second to last night of my vacation, I was coming home through Germany, and due to negligence, the conductor drove the train 120 kilometers an hour through a construction zone into a train station. 9 people were dead, 150 seriously injured. And yeah, that night haunted me for years and years and years, just being so young and not having the experience I needed to do complex first aid and whatnot. But I helped pull a whole bunch of people out of that night, and
Wow.
the fight or flight race thing, because it's like I was already on tour, I was already trained for this. So
Yes.
I wasn't trained for this to happen in a civilian country where
Mm-hmm.
everything is peaceful. It just That was something I was expecting to happen more like on my tour. You know, in a with surrounded by my friends, and
Yeah.
that I was surrounded by myself, and then the macabre of just the wreck that night. So
Wow.
um, I ended up going in and with another German soldier who was on the train and survived the train wreck. Also, we just started doing first aid and pulling people out as much as we
Yeah.
could until first responders arrived within 10-15 minutes. But that was a long
Oh.
10-15 minutes.
Oh my God. It must have been absolute chaos.
Yeah, it was eerily quiet until people started screaming.
Yes.
And
Mm.
there was no fire, there was no electricity. The train had run off the tracks into a house and into the train station. So, but once the people started screaming for help, that's when it
Yeah.
really started kicking in gears and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. The reality of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry you had to experience something like that. Wow. That's intense.
Yeah, it was for the longest time that's where my soul existed, and I just
Mm,
couldn't get out of the car.
yeah.
Even though I know I here now and I was able to get out and pull people out, I just um, spiritually was stuck in that car for 20 years.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And just to give our viewers a little bit of information around what survivor's guilt actually is, it's very common with people that have survived catastrophic events, such as yourself in a train wreck, air crashes, combat. That's another one that a
Yeah.
lot of soldiers suffer from survivor's guilt. And also, even on the lower end of things, wide range job layoffs,
Yeah.
natural disasters, and all kinds of things. But it's basically a condition that occurs when a person believes that they've done something wrong by surviving a traumatic event when others
Mm-hmm.
did not. And there's actually three types. There's first one is the guilt about staying alive while others died. The second one is guilt about the things that you may feel like you have failed to do, which is common in first responders as well. And the third is about feelings of guilt about what they did do, like scrambling over others, trying to escape. Right. So I'm just curious, did all three of those resonate?
Mostly the second and third one. Um,
Yes.
Second one, just because I was young and I wish I had more training. It's
Yeah.
like all right, I have my basic first aid. I can, put a tourniquet on you, but I don't know how to move you from this place to this place through
Mm,
this chaos and bent metal and people who are crawling over me trying to help you.
yeah.
Like there's a lot of, and then later on in life, it's like I'm having good times in life, and it's like,
Mhm.
well, should I really be enjoying this because other
Mhm.
people didn't? And a lot of other little weird feelings that creep into your head
Yeah.
because of that. So I feel like I might have over, a decade not really embraced the good times as much as I should have because I felt bad for these people who didn't. And their faces are still stuck in my head at the time.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. 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 That's pretty intense though, right? And I can't even imagine, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's not a lot of people I can talk to about this
Mm.
because, I mean, like, if it happened when I was in a combat zone or something like that, that'd be different because I'd have my brothers to talk about. We had the same experiences, and there's a little
Yeah.
bit of healing with that. But when you're by yourself and you're going through something like this, it's completely different. So
Yeah.
that's why I've had to search a long time to try to like fix myself from something that was
Yeah.
such a like an hour of complete chaos till it's back
Hmm.
to this is real world. Now you got to get back to doing what you were doing.
Yeah. And I also heard you say like I was kind of like beating myself up because I wish I had more training, but I mean that's out of your control in that moment. You know what I mean? You didn't have the training. No one expected you to have the training, but I can see how that could surface, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the army mentality too, right? Like, oh, if I
Mhm.
had a little bit more, maybe I could have done this or that. Maybe it wouldn't have done anything, but I mean, like, there's always like something extra I probably could have done, and I think that's something that repeats with a lot of first responders and veterans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If I tried a little harder, if I didn't jerk off so much over here, and I tried a little, did more
Yeah.
classes, then, I would have been better prepared. But that's always the hindsight game that we play, right?
Always, and it's interesting, Damien, because even as a therapist, we actually go through training to prepare us for this as well. Not in a,
Mhm.
obviously, not in a catastrophic wreck, but if a patient or a client maybe suicide or something, and then as a therapist, I'm going to beat myself up, wondering, like, could have I done more? Could have, would have,
Right.
should have, right? So it is definitely a thing. People don't understand it until you've lived it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, so suffering with reoccurring nightmares for 23 years, the medication's not working. Now
Mhm.
you're on your way to, was it Peru or did you go to Mexico?
I did both.
You did both.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I've gone twice now. I went to
Hmm.
Peru after I saw Toby's
Hmm.
testimonial and chatted with him for a little bit
Yeah.
and saw the just transformation. And then I reached out to his no, excuse me, his
Hmm.
facilitators and got comfortable with them. And he told me right off the bat, you can trust these people. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
going down to the Amazon, you can trust these people. They're good to go. I'm like, and coming from somebody who's done the work he's done and between my friend group in the with veterans and knowing, where he was before that and how he come back, I'm like, there's really a non-issue here other than, just making some money and making it happen. So
Yeah.
at the time, my wife wanted to do it with me, but
Hmm.
we just couldn't afford it. But she's like, you can't afford to wait till next year. You're going now. Like, just book it. You're going. I'm like,
Wow.
all right. So,
Yeah, that's excellent. And it's really nice to hear that, that the partner, the wife at home is also very supportive of it because that can definitely hinder any progress if one person
oh
isn't
yeah,
on board with it. Because, there's a lot of misunderstandings still when it comes to the entheogens and the plant medicines, right? I mean, even when I
yeah,
talk to certain individuals about it, they still like, oh, isn't that, a party drug? Like, especially when it comes to the
yeah. It's all woo
psilocybin.
woo stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, it's all
yeah,
woo-woo stuff. And unfortunately, with the ever so gaining popularity, we're starting to see pop-up retreats now and what I would like to call the charlatans. They've
mhm,
taken a couple of week course or they've done it one time and they've gotten a calling
yeah.
and now they're doing ceremonies in their basement. And there's been some like incidents now where it's actually caused worse
Oh yeah.
PTSD and trauma.
Oh, absolutely. The
Mhm.
people you do it with, you have to do the integration and you have to do the prep work. The prep work is
Yes.
I did 3 4 months of prep work before I went, and I did even a microdosing 3 month mindful microdosing
Mm.
course where
Mhm.
every week was something else that I was unlocking in my brain and just helping let go. So when I went there, it wasn't going to be just like this like flood of information coming out of me.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to be part of the experience. And once Mother Ayahuasca starts calling you, you know you're going. It's just like she starts calling you, and it's like, all right, I got to prepare. I got to show up proper.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be blindsided by anything, which is inevitable anyways.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I did the prep work, and
Mm-hmm.
my wife and I did the prep work together. She's done everything that we've done as veteran couples together. So
Mm-hmm.
we've done equine therapy together. We've done everything. So she understands, what I'm going through,
Mm-hmm.
what she's going through, and we're just a better partnership together instead of me trying to do this. And so
Yeah.
much so that even my daughter wants to start trying to do it too, just to connect as a whole family unit.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
yeah,
your wife is a veteran as well?
no, but she's a
Okay.
veteran's wife, so
Yep.
she deals with all my crap.
Absolutely.
And if
Yeah.
if I have a bad night with nightmares, then she's not sleeping,
Yeah.
and it affects her whole day. Just knowing that if I get up and I'm having a rough day, that's gonna set her whole day off too,
Of
because we work
course.
together
Yep.
also. So it was imperative that we did a lot of this stuff together.
Yeah, that's excellent. And as far as the prep work goes, just so our viewers have a good idea of what that it entails, the dieta,
The dieta, yes.
that's very
Uh,
important.
Very important. So they recommend 7 days before.
Mhm.
I did mine up to 3 weeks and started really weaning off everything.
Mhm.
So it was for me, it was no cannabis, no coffee, caffeine,
That was the hard one
sugar.
for me.
Yeah, me too.
That was a really
Yeah,
hard one for me.
everything else. Yeah, everything
Mhm.
else was easy except for the coffee.
Mhm.
Um, the sugar, no salt, no red meat, no pork,
Yeah.
abstain from sex,
Yeah.
and a few other things. But it was just getting your mind and body right. And not 2 to 3 weeks before I even left, I lost 16 pounds, and I just like started shrinking down and just eating
Mhm.
the whole foods that I was allowed to eat at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like being very ready for it. So
Yeah.
um,
And not even just from like a health point of view too, but it's like the integrity of
yes,
showing up with integrity, because ayahuasca is a sentient being and she needs to be shown the respect and
absolutely.
the discipline, right? It is not a party drug. This is for
No,
deep, deep inner transformation, healing. And she needs to be treated as such.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to show up proper, or else she's gonna, you know, we always say she gives you what you need, not what you want.
exactly. Yeah.
And if you need a spanking, or if you need to, be
Yeah.
shown what's up, she's going to do that to
Yeah,
you.
I'm trying not to shake the table when
Yeah.
I laugh because when you said a spanking, if you know, you know,
Yeah.
right? If you know,
So,
you know, because I consider it like a good scolding, like grandmother would do, right?
yeah.
And
She
then
loves
she,
you, but she's going to tell you what's up.
yeah, and and that the prep work, like you said, mind, body, soul, right? Like the prep work is really important, not only just with the diet but also with setting intentions. This I
Absolutely.
feel like the setting intention is like your anchor, it's like your north star. So when things go sideways, and they might, chances
Mhm.
are they will, because it's pretty intense. Like it's a journey that I have never experienced before, like that before, I should say. But so you need to have that intention to kind of have that anchor when things do get a little rough.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that intention just, yeah, like you said, anchors you,
Mhm.
helps you get you through your sessions. I mean, like for me, all mine were incredibly visual because I'm a
Mm.
visual person. So
Yep.
she presented herself very visual to me,
Mhm.
and I was able to get a lot of beautiful lessons out of it. But it was a lot of work, prep work, just to get there, and to get down to Peru was 24 hours of traveling and
Mm.
layovers and whatnot. Also 3 flights, and
Yep.
it was so just to get there, shows commitment, and then to commit that to yourself, I can do the diet, I can go off the things that I love, like I love gummy
Mhm.
bears and coffee, and I mean, like, all right, cool. So I'm not going to have any of those things. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
um, no alcohol, obviously.
Yeah.
And the people I've heard who didn't do that always had a rough time. They always had
Yes.
a very rough time going through because they're going through withdrawals while they're going through their ceremonies
Yes.
instead of going through their withdrawals before they do their ceremony. So,
Yeah, you nailed it. I've personally observed that as well, where people did not take it seriously and they suffered a great deal because of it. Because from my understanding, like the first night that you drink the brew, it's kind of like she goes in and has a look around at what needs to be purged. So if
mhm,
it's toxicity in the foods that you eat, then it's going to be a miserable night
mhm,
where you're actually going to be purging that. And like plant medicines, like they guide our body's wisdom, right? It's our
yes,
body's wisdom by showing us where emotions and traumas are stuck.
absolutely.
Yeah. And my first night was a lot of physical pain. Oh my God. It was excruciating. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, why are you showing me this? And that's the thing. Did you find that
Mhm.
you had an open dialogue with grandmother?
Yeah, mine was incredibly beautiful
Mm-hmm.
and just very, I think she, best way to describe it is like you came proper, you're here for a reason, we're here to help you. We need to do some psychedelic surgery on you. So as long as you
Mm-hmm.
just do what you're told, you will be fine. And yeah, my first night was 20 minutes into it. I already had a breakthrough, full on visual, like out of
Wow.
body experience. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I had taken my first brew, which they call the administrative dose. So it was like just a half shot glass,
Mm-hmm.
and all the lights go out, and I'm maybe 20 minutes laying on my mat, and my body's like, yeah, no, we're not keeping this in. You got to get this out of you. And I purged right away. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was really weird because it didn't come from my stomach. It came from my chest and my shoulders, and it came from like all this weight I've been carrying around in my body. And I was like, oh, that's really weird. But as I look across the Maloka, which is pitch black other than the ambient light coming in, I'm like, I'm transported to the train wreck. And I'm like, I'm in the train wreck right now, but I'm looking at the train wreck like a movie and I'm watching myself kick out the window. I'm watching myself start pulling people out like I'm watching a movie of it. And I'm like, what is happening right now? It's clear as I can see you right now. Like, this is how clear my visions were. And this voice in the back of my head's like, dude, you are a hero. Look at you go. Look
Oh,
at the people
wow.
who were look at the people who were running away and look at the people who stayed. Just two of yous until the first responders came.
Oh, I'm getting teary. Yeah.
And then
Whew.
within this is like half hour into my first session. And then it's pitch black and I'm a different person and I can't get out of this. The one train car had flipped on its side and dragged for a while. So um, this soldier and I, who I met, we were trying to get the door open so we can get the people out. And it was pitch black, but I could see I wasn't me. I was some other person, and I was being pushed on by other people around me, or all crowding around. And I felt really scared and anxious, like somebody please save me. And I just see this crack in the door open like this. And I'm looking at me and the German soldier getting the door open. I could feel the relief from this person actually coming out and being saved.
Wow. Oh,
So,
incredible.
so all the people that I saw pass away that night, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them anymore. I only see what Mother Aya showed me that night. And there was a few other things like that happened that night, but it was incredibly visual and just thoughts of reaffirmation and like, doing good. It's like, and at one point it was very visual and it shows my head like this and it just separates. And I could see the body, the skin, but the brain was very blockish and robotic because it's just operating on fight or flight. So it's like you got two responses and it's not dynamic. It's not the way a brain should be thinking. But don't worry, we're going to sort you out. I'm like, this is the voice that's telling me this. And I'm like, first night. And I'm like, already like, okay. this is pretty wild, and it's not what I was thinking at all. It didn't make me feel scared at all. More reassuring, like this is going to be okay. Going to get through this. Um, and then that night, I ended up sleeping in the Maloka till about 6 a.m. Session ended around midnight. But I mean, like I woke up that morning and I realized I hadn't had a bad dream all night. Like my dreams were just like, I didn't have a bad dream last night. Like, okay. I didn't wake up all um, ready to go. I didn't wake up like fight or flight or just trying to like level up my cortisol levels or whatever and my
Yeah.
adrenaline. I just felt good. And I remember walking back to my hut that day and I was just tears coming down my eyes because I'm like,
Mm,
this stuff is just wild.
yeah.
So
Yeah. And that was the first night.
yeah, that was the
Wow.
first night.
Wow.
So
Incredible.
yeah, it got even crazier after that for me.
Yeah.
Um, but the next day after breakfast, you go with the maestros again and back to the Maloka, and they do like kind of like, how did you do last night? How did you feel?
Yeah.
Do you need a little bit more? And they kind of gauge where you're at.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, I was blown away by the whole ceremony and everything because of the Icaros they were singing to us, and during that time, that
Yeah.
I tend to that is so powerful with your visions and how it
Yes.
makes your night go. So we had a very small group this time in Peru. It was only four of us doing it.
Mm,
So it wasn't a big group. So they spent a lot of extra time with us. And we
wow.
get to talk to them every day and we got to
Mhm.
hang out with them. Like we're on their land, we're in their property. So we're just there to partake in what they have to offer to try to help us heal and
Yeah.
whatnot. So it
Yeah.
was
That's
very,
incredible. What a blessing to have such a small group and have extra time spent. Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause my ceremonies, there was like, I think 20 up to 22 people.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was mayhem in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my second ceremony in Mexico was only 10 people. So they
That's a nice number.
just try to keep it small. So
Mhm.
um, the group's not affecting what you're going through because somebody next to you could have a rough time and they're just
Yeah.
kind of affecting your space, that you're trying
Yes.
to maintain.
Yeah.
But out there in Peru is so small, and you're literally tripping over the ayahuasca going out to the huts. They're
Mm,
like it's growing right there. That's why they started making the actual retreat center there. So
yeah. That's incredible. Now, what about your second? Did you drink 3 nights? Was it
I
three
drank
ceremonies?
5 nights,
Five
5 nights,
nights.
5 nights over 7 days. So
Wow.
my second night, I call it my psychedelic surgery. That's
Okay.
when a lot of the weeds around my heart got cleared out.
Hmm.
Where describing it like it's almost ineffable. It's hard to describe, but the lessons I took from that night are the most important things, and other than the visions that I saw. But these shakes I used to have were taken from me. I
Mm,
remember taking my shot. I took a full dose that night, laid down, and again waiting for everybody to take theirs, and
mhm.
very ceremoniously the light goes out, and 20, 30 minutes later, Noe and Sylvia start singing their Icaros, and they're so beautiful coming out of the haunting blackness. And you're just like, oh,
Yes.
I'm about to go on a ride because they're
Mhm.
feeling it. I'm about to feel it. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember grabbing my bucket again and being like, yep, there's something in me that just wants to get out. And it's not me
Mhm.
feeling sick, like I'm being drugged or anything like that. It's like there is something in me that is so gross that it just needs to come out of me in a very cathartic way. So my body realizes it's not meant to be in me.
Yeah.
And I grab my bucket, purge again, lay down, and I'm surrounded by beautiful light beings everywhere. And these
Wow.
things are talking to me and they're like, all right, we're going to start the surgery now. Can you lay on your back and we're going to do what we need to do? I'm like, okay, I'm here. This is
Mhm.
part of it. And then I'm just going to go with it. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that night was like 5 hours of um, just the most beautiful imagery and beings coming to me and giving me these lessons. And
Mhm.
the most important lesson I learned that like after all my shakes were literally taken from me, um, were these beings that came to me that were just made out of light, and they're like, "You have tattoos, but your tattoos are the people that you saw die. You wear all their bodies, you wear all their last moments like skin. You wear them
Wow.
like," and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I can't get away from them. They're part of me. And they're like, they said to me, these people had families who have their best memories. They don't belong to you, and you need to let them go.
Wow.
And one by one, they were grabbing my arms and pulling them off me like sheets of paper. I could feel and hear sheets of paper ripping off my body. Like, let them go. These people have families. They have good memories somewhere. They don't belong to you. Let them go. And just started tearing them off me for like 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I just felt every time one of them would come over and grab one and take it off, I just felt lighter and lighter and lighter. Like I didn't have to try to honor those people's last memories for that their family would honor them and I didn't need to hold on to them.
Wow. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, ayahuasca kind of speaks in riddles sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and like it doesn't really make sense to a lot of people, but it's really what you need in that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And sometimes you actually have to ask her, like, what is it that you're trying to show me too? Did you
Mm-hmm.
ever have to ask her like that? Like, like show me another way because maybe things got really difficult in ceremony. Did you ever have to ask her to show you a different way?
No,
No.
she's a trickster though.
She is, yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
um, During that night, I mean, like I definitely met what I would call a spirit animal who came to me and was very like showing me through my ceremonies, like what I need to do, how to fix my heart, how to keep it like from turning black and hard, which my heart had become. And it's just like there's just too much negativity. You're just allowing too much negativity into this life, into this heart, whether it be doom scrolling on YouTube or whatever, whatever you're filling your brain with that isn't serving you is something that's going against you. And you engaging in negative thoughts or negative activities are perpetuating that. And
Yeah.
if you keep your heart clean from that, like I'll keep your dreams clean. I'll keep your dreams like safe. Like I'll protect your dreams, but you got to protect your heart. And it was like, Roger that. All right, So um
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it was a huge lesson that night. Like, and I
Mhm.
mean, like to go through like everything that I went through that one particular night would take hours. Just I wrote everything down after I came out of my ceremony of every little thing that I came through. But
Yeah.
um I remember asking Aya and asking these beings like, why are you doing this for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, well, because you put your life on the line for other people and you have a very high seat
Mhm.
next to in heaven. Like
Mm.
your first responders, everybody who's ever done something for other
Mhm.
people, you're like, we love that shit. We love you for that. That's why we're here to help you. And all your friends and everybody who's ever done stuff like that, they sit at very high seats in heaven. So don't worry.
Wow.
I'm like,
Wow.
I'm like, I'm not a very religious person, but I was
Mhm.
like, this is the way you're communicating with me. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'm like, that sounds awesome. So, you know, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was very, I don't know, it definitely shook me,
Yeah.
um, but like in a good way.
Yeah. I really like just kind of going back to the tattoos. Like, do you actually have tattoos that were significant to that wreck?
No,
No, it
No,
was, see, and
no.
that's exactly like those
Yeah,
metaphors that she uses and whatnot.
yeah,
Like you said, you could actually even hear the paper that sounded like it was ripping
yeah.
from your body. And that's the thing with ayahuasca. Like you said, she's a trickster. She talks
Hmm.
in riddles, and sometimes it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah,
I've actually written entries in a journal that I read, 3 years later, and I was like, oh my
right.
God, there it is. Right. It's like she sprinkles this knowledge on you like for years later.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have messages that still come to you as well?
Oh yeah, she's still always talking to me in some way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she just tells me when I need to smarten up or
Hmm.
get out of my own head,
Yeah.
things like that. But yeah, it's coming home and doing the integration
Hmm.
and keeping the lessons in my in my mind and not forgetting them, because it's very
Yes.
easy to just come back and do the same old thing that you were doing and get back into the same rut. And it's like, why did you
Yeah.
do that in the first place? Why
Yes.
did you make the effort to go all the way down there? It's like, it's not something that you want to just have an experience with.
Yeah.
That's how she showed herself to me, to help me heal. And that's
Yes.
that's what I needed.
Yeah. And with that being said, Damien, it's a very individualized personal experience. And one thing that like the people that I work with, they always highly encourage like right after ceremony, not to talk about your experience too much. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like obviously later on because you've integrated, but not to actually share it too much or to just anyone, because then the
Yes.
messages can get very murky and confusing. And then sometimes people actually put their own spin on it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. And I've heard
Yeah.
you say integration numerous times. I would really like to highlight that as well, like how important that is to not just have that experience and ceremony and then just go back to your regular life, you know.
Yes. You got to make the adjustments, because I mean, like, you're doing either something wrong to be there
Mhm.
or whatnot, or you have to do some things that, are uncomfortable, but will
Yeah.
put your mind at ease. So
Yes.
that's kind of like what I did when I came home from that.
Yes. And our ego or our mind loves to attach to stories, and
Hmm.
personal narratives. And I find that, you'll hear a lot of people talk about like the dissolution of ego or an ego death. And I don't actually like using ego death. Our ego is actually kind of an important part in playing a role between the instinctual and then the super ego, which is the society and norms and values and rules and whatnot. But did you experience anything like that of like an ego dissolution?
Yeah, I felt like over those 5 nights were pretty insane for me.
Hmm.
I even just watched my own death,
Mm.
like personal death, and being like
Yes.
put into the ground. And but it made me feel good because I was old, thank goodness.
Hmm. Yeah.
But as my soul was looking around as I was going in, I was surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands, of my friends who I've affected positively.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
like, so it just gave me like, hey, no, you're doing a good job by,
Hmm.
talking about this. You're doing a good job by the things you do and try to help others. So, I mean, like, you're affecting a greater, that you won't know them right now. Like, you'll just see those people come out for, support when you're not here. And it's like, all right, that makes me feel good, you
Wow,
know?
that's incredible. So yeah, so it's interesting that you got to witness or observe, all the people that you've helped throughout the years. Um, like you actually kind of saw their faces in ceremony. Is that what you meant?
It was just more like a vision of just me being lowered into the
Mm.
ground, and just kind of like the people who were at my funeral. And
Oh,
it was just
okay.
like big crowds, not just like five people who I didn't manage to piss off in this world. It was like a
Oh,
greater influence, I guess, and just
yeah.
showing me like, yeah, you have good influence when you're influencing good,
Wow, that's
and
incredible.
So
Yeah.
it was pretty heavy, like I said, like, and that was like my end of my second night.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a similar experience too, where I was, all of a sudden I was this tiny little frail old lady and I was dying. And the shaman was singing to me. It was my turn to go up for my Ikaros, my own
Hmm.
personalized Ikaros. And it was like they were singing me into the afterlife. But then my egotistic mind wanted to attach to possessions, material possessions, and assets, and um, unresolved conflict. And it just
Hmm.
kept showing me the death and then going back to all these things that I was attached to. And then I realized like none of it matters. None of it
Hmm.
matters. Like when we die, we're not taking any of this with us. And all
Nope.
of this unresolved conflict and drama, we do not want to take that with us to the other side.
No. No.
Yeah. And it's interesting that she has to show us our own death in order for us to realize that it's not worth getting frustrated over anymore, all these
No.
mundane things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the things that Western society kind of tells you should have and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like almost like the pharaohs of old. I'm like, yeah, you can build a pyramid and try to like bury all your shit, but I'm like, you're still going to the afterlife and or
Yeah.
whatever that is to you, and you all this stuff doesn't mean shit, you know.
No, it doesn't.
The relationships mean things though.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual connections you make with people mean
Yeah.
things because they're long lasting, but like stuff's just stuff, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It'll this all the stuff, my house, everything that I have here be somebody else's some days, or it'll be in a trash, you know, in a
Yeah.
in the dump or something, you know. But like right now it's just the stuff that occupies my life.
Yeah.
But
So true.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the unresolved conflict too. I just want to touch on that just kind of ever so gently. When I was on my journey to my own self transformation and healing, and I had found plant medicine, there was a lot of stuff that came up, right? And
Oh yeah.
stuff that I still am working on today. And I
Mhm.
was long time ago, I was actually quite resentful towards a high school principal. He had expelled me out of school. And later on in my healing journey, I was kind of angry at him. I was like, like, why wasn't there an intervention? Like, why just kick me out of school? Why wasn't there an intervention? Why couldn't people see what was going on and try to help me out in other ways and just expelling me, and
Mhm.
which felt like abandonment. And then
Sure.
during a psilocybin journey, he came through. And what I discovered is he was praying for me. He had been
Oh
praying for me this whole entire time. And then again, all of that resentment just dissolved, and it was really emotional. But it's so interesting how the plant medicine will just take you right there and show you
yes.
exactly what you need to see. Because I was carrying so much like anger around my heart, and
Mhm.
that's never a good thing.
No.
No.
It ages you. It gives you. It makes you sick.
Yes.
You know.
Dis-ease.
Yes. Yeah. It makes you
Dis-ease.
sick. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I just want to touch on a couple things, Damian, and it's going to be a little bit of a questionnaire.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I read this book a long time ago. It's called Listening to Ayahuasca, and the author is Rachel Harris. She's 30
Okay.
years psychologist, and she wrote a book on her experiences with ayahuasca, which actually included a lot of data research, which
Okay.
was super impressive. So, like top researchers in private practices, such as the John Hopkins University School of Medicine, they've collected a lot of data over decades of scientific inquiry into the mystical effects of psychedelics and their ability to heal patients with PTSD, addictions, depressions, and anxiety. So, and obviously, as you know, we don't have any way to measure a psychedelic experience or a mystical experience.
Right.
Stanislav Grof, are you familiar with Stanislav Grof?
No.
Oh, I'm going to definitely send some books your way.
Awesome.
I think you would be absolutely, they're so interesting because these are psychologists and psychiatrists that have been studying psychedelics for like decades, right? So they actually developed a questionnaire that helped measure these mystical experiences. And it seems like even though everybody's experience is very individualized, there's
Right.
common themes.
Absolutely.
There's common themes. One of them being unity. I'm just curious if you felt oneness with community or spirit or the creator. Was there any feelings of unity?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you also
Absolutely.
witness the duality?
I witnessed something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, yeah, it's like I said, there's so many nights under the medicine where
Mhm.
I experienced some of that. I experienced what human beings could achieve when we all work together,
Ah,
and how our planet was healed based off of that, and showing me these
wow.
beautiful like
Yeah.
scenes just from like being in a war zone and stuff like that, and losing faith in humanity. It's like,
Mhm.
no, but like if you guys got together, this is what you could do. And it's like, oh wow, this is pretty awesome. Like, and just
Oh,
having the
wow.
planet balanced with nature, with
Yeah.
architecture and everything, and just very beautiful scenes. And it's like, all right, yeah, that gives me faith in
Yeah.
humanity and who we
Yes.
are and what we can achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is exactly why I love these little communities that we're building, through you and Toby and the shamans, like becoming
Yes,
Yes. I'll probably give them a shout out too, because that is one of the retreats that you attended, correct?
both of them. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, for
yes.
sure. Another one is a transcendence of time and space. Did you ever experience any time teleport, like into other dimensions and
I don't know if it's another dimension. I think it's like
Mhm.
more of like an extra dimension that we just can't see perceptually, and the medicine helps open up your eyes so you can see that.
Mm.
Um, I think it's all around us,
Yeah,
um, constantly.
yeah.
And I kind of like equate my ayahuasca kind of shows you the spirit realm, like where anything that's
Mhm.
living has a spirit and exists and always
Yes.
has exist. So whether those entities are good or bad, it
Mhm.
depends on how you're going there and how you can communicate with them. Um,
Yes.
and I've had definitely some bad entities who came to me, and they were literally feeding off my negative emotions and my
Yeah.
PTSD for years.
Mhm.
And when I was healing myself, they were getting mad at me. They're like, dude, why are you trying to heal yourself? And like, these things are like looking like big crocodiles. And it's like,
Oh,
because I was like,
interesting.
because I keep feeding
Mhm.
you, like you're gonna swallow my whole family in one bite. Like you're that big. I can't keep feeding you anymore. I'm like, I got
Yeah.
nothing for you. Like go away. And that visual representation just showed me like how much my negativity infects everything around me, and not
Yeah.
even this world, but that world too. So, and if I'm constantly feeding them, then something's going to give, and I can't. I just need to
Yeah.
stop.
Wow, that's really interesting that the negativity, the entities showed up as a crocodile,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just want to eat. They just want to do crocodile things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to,
Yeah.
you keep feeding me, I'm just going to
Mhm.
keep eating.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Roger that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I got
Kind of
nothing for you anymore.
Yeah, it kind of goes into that like that animal instinct, that predatory. Everybody sees something similar, maybe not so much a crocodile, but sometimes it's like the anaconda or the giant spider,
Yeah.
or and like if you go back into history, the shamans, like the rites of passage is that they were absolutely consumed by one of these beasts, whether it was
Hmm.
demonic entities or some sort of like you said, like a crocodile, something very primitive.
Yes.
The reptilian
Yes.
brain. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yes. So another one of them was a deeply felt positive mood, which is gratitude and love.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. I,
Mostly
my,
coming out of
mhm,
mostly coming out of the ceremony. I just felt
coming
like,
out. Yeah.
yeah, I just felt like I feel good. Like it's relieved me of a lot of things that used to hold
Mhm.
me back. And helped me see things from a different light. So
Yes.
I just felt like every night it's like, thank you. I can't wait for
Yeah.
my lessons tonight. I'm not scared.
Mm,
If you're just going to keep showing me the love, then I'm all for it.
yes.
So, yeah,
Yes. Another one is sense of sacredness.
sense of sacredness. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I
I
didn't
mean,
actually witness like a deity. I know a lot of people see deities. Did you see a deity?
absolutely.
Oh, you did.
Yes. That was my third night and my fourth night.
Yeah. So a sense of sacredness. Sorry, I missed the deity part. Did you actually see some sort of a deity?
Yeah, so my deity has always been the Buddha.
Mm,
Big
mm-hmm,
and blue and beautiful. On my third night of ceremony, I was being shown, and this is where she kind of tricked me,
mm-hmm,
showing all these beautiful things of like what humans can accomplish, these beautiful golden pyramids in line with nature and just everything in a beautiful balance. And
mm-hmm.
um, this beautiful Buddha appears to me about 400 feet tall, multi heads, and they all just start shining lasers into me. And I'm like, this is very trippy. And this is not what my night was like. But I hear this voice like, you're very clever, Damien, but you can't hide it no more.
Yes.
Like, we're going to find it. You're hiding something. You're clever. You thought all this other stuff that we did the other night was
Yeah.
going to be taken care of, but like, we need to find out what's really holding you back. And all these light, and up until that night I hadn't had a purge. I had been crying. I've just been kind of like enjoying the ride basically, because it's been showing me all these beautiful things that I needed to see. And just above my navel it shines this laser, and there's a terrible pain just below my belly button. I'm like, oh yeah, you found it. And I remember grabbing my bucket and purging, the worst purge I've ever had in my life. And it was
Mm-hmm.
pitch black, and when I look up into the bowl, there's this little rainbow of a fetus just sitting there, because my wife and I, we lost our son 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And it had just sat in my guts because we just
Mm,
buried it, and we weren't able to grieve properly for that. And we weren't able to have any of our own kids after that. So it was just a very hard point for both my wife and I. And
yeah.
we never really got over it, but we never
Mm,
talked about it either.
right.
So yeah, this beautiful Mother Ayahuasca in the form of a Buddha just shines me this. And as I'm sitting there, this fetus just does one of these in front of me and flies up in front of the Buddha. And the Buddha says to me, like, your son was a pure soul, never got corrupted by this world. It'll be waiting for you in heaven. Don't worry. Just
Wow.
rejoice that I'm taking care of him.
Wow.
And I'm like, and that's when the
Wow.
waterworks start coming on, and I start crying like
Hmm.
uncontrollably. And that was towards the end of the night that night. So when that
Yeah.
happened,
Wow.
and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
wow, did not expect that. And yeah, you got me. Can't go in here thinking you know anything just because you had one or two experiences. Like, she's
Yeah.
gonna show you what you need to know. And like I said before, she's gonna show you what you need, not what you want. So
Yes, that is so true. And it's interesting that that physical pain had manifested just above your belly button or around your belly
yeah,
button, and to just know that, oh, you found it.
yeah,
Especially when this is all going on in here, you
yeah.
know.
But
Wow,
it's all held in your body
it
because the maestros are
is.
going to come, and
Mhm.
when they're singing their ikros to you, they're massaging you and everything like that too. They're
Absolutely.
massaging your guts, and they're
Mhm.
reorganizing your guts where you're holding this pain and helping you release it. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, since I've come from my third ceremony after that night, I haven't had IBS either. Like, it's all
Oh my
gone.
God.
I
Exactly. Exactly.
and
And she works in a very somatic way. Like, because,
yeah,
let's face it, trauma is a pain manifestation. It goes into pain manifestations in the body.
absolutely.
And I've seen clients too that have like psychosomatic symptoms, and there's just absolutely no explanation. Nobody can figure
Mhm.
it out what it is, but nobody's asking the question about trauma. Like the doctors,
Exactly.
medical doctors, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was released from your body and you were able to like process that emotionally.
Yeah, and I mean,
Oh,
like that next day, I mean, like I couldn't get to the bathroom fast enough, and I
mhm.
mean, like there's two gentlemen who did the ayahuasca retreats, and we were both doing the same thing, like get
Yeah,
to the washroom, and it's like I've never relieved myself like that ever in my life, and I just felt like there's like 10 years of gunk that just got cleaned out of me,
yeah,
and like whatever intestine was twisted the wrong way or something,
mhm.
just wasn't working properly, just seemed to be, you know,
Yeah,
flowing. And all the pain that I was holding in my fascia and my chest and my guts
yeah,
just seemed to be relieved, where I didn't have this little soreness of the gut just from
mhm.
holding on to the mental pain, right? So,
Yeah, so true. It's just amazing how she works. So mysterious, but and that's like when I explained to you, like my very first night when I had the physical pain, it was
mhm,
excruciating. Like I had like achy legs. I couldn't sit still. I would sit up, I'd lay down. There wasn't anything that I could do to relieve the pain. And I fought this for 5 hours
right.
until finally I remembered, right? Because through the prep work, I remembered to ask her, what is it that you need me to see?
Hmm.
And she basically showed me or told me that this is all the pain, the resentment, the anger that you're
Yep.
carrying in your body over a lifetime. But I'm showing you what that pain is like in one night. But this is the
Hmm.
pain you're carrying over a lifetime. And once I got that message, again, the tears came and
Hmm.
I was in absolute bliss after. And
Yes.
it really softened my heart because
Yes.
yeah, the pain and the resentment and all of that is only hurting ourselves. It's a disease.
Absolutely.
It's a
Absolutely.
disease. Yeah, for sure. So like in that study that I mentioned where they came up with this
Mm.
questionnaire, like those were some of the questions, but oh shoot, I think the power just went out. Fuck. Oh no.